Hey, it's Ryan, and today we're going to answer the question, is an iPhone 6s still relevant in 2020? Let's take a look. If this is your first time here, consider subscribing. We do a lot of tech reviews, we do a lot of tech news and unboxings, just whatever we feel like doing that involves technology in your life, that's what we do. So subscribe, turn on the bell, and let's get into this. So this is the phone that I have had the longest out of all of my phones. This one I had for over 4 years. And this is the 6S Plus. It's been a great phone. I've actually really loved it. And I ended up skipping the 6, that whole new redesign from the 5 and the 5S, and went to this guy, which is one of those phones that just is super solid and is always kind of taking care of everything for me. This is also the one where I found out my favorite kind of case screen protector combo thing that I hope to do on my future phone, but we'll see how it goes. This was my first big phone. Every other phone that I had was pretty small. I've got them lined up right over here. I've got the original 3GS and the 5. This is quite an upgrade if you compare it to the phone before that I had, which was the 5. This one lasted me just a couple of years, and then I saw this and happened to have a little bit of money lying around and decided to jump into it. When I first got this phone, the battery life was amazing. I mean, this is a big phone and it had a pretty big battery in it. So this would last me quite a while. I'd be able to drive to work and just charge it up on my way to work and maybe on my way home, but then it would last all night. I wouldn't plug it in when I went to sleep. I would just plug it in on my way to work or on my way home. And I was surprised. I would still have, 40 to 50% left when I'd go to plug it in. And that was awesome for a little bit. It started to really diminish fairly quickly. I was surprised how quick, actually. But this actually continued my love affair with cases. Now, to kind of give you context, I have to go back to my very first phone, which is this guy right here. This is the original iPhone. This is the 8 gig model. It even says on the back here, 8 gig. Did I stand in line for this? Yeah, I did. But it wasn't that big a line. It was actually at an AT&T store. It wasn't even in an Apple store. Because at that point, we only had 2 in the area where I live. So this guy, I just really loved the way it looked. And oh, by the way, this came from, hold on, wait a minute, just a second. Yes, this is what I had before that. This guy, the Palm Trio, because I wanted something that could do everything. I wanted it to be able to text, to do email, to have a calendar, to play music, and this did some of that. So yes, I stood in line for this guy, and I do not regret it one bit. But I love the way it was designed so much. I didn't really want to put a case on it. Plus, at that time, cases weren't really a huge product segment. They just didn't really exist that much. So when companies like Zag started coming out with their invisible shield thing, that's what this is, because they're local to where I live. I decided to put the Zag skin on it, and this is the original skin that was on it, and I loved it. It held it up great. I mean, you can see it's discolored a little bit because there's the original silver, and then you can see it's kind of gotten its own color of gold. How nice is that? After that, I went to my 3GS. I ended up getting a 3GS, and yes, that screen, I've replaced this screen. I replaced it once while I had it, and it decided to go all crazy again. And this one, 32 gigs, quite a step up there. This one, I ventured into a case pretty quick, and immediately took it back into the store because it felt weird in my hand. I just loved the way this thing felt. and it kind of ruined it with a case on it. So no case there. Then this guy came along, and this is the one. This is the iPhone 5. And I believe this one was a 64 gig, because I always tried to get the most that the phone offered, because I knew it was going to last me at least a couple of years. So when I got this one, there's just something about the way it was designed, you know, and the glass up in this area and down here that just made you really just want to get a case. So I did. I had headphone jack, and I ended up getting something very similar. Actually, it was this exact case, one of these OtterBox Defender cases. And these, if you want to keep your phone safe, this is the case to get. But it makes everything else very difficult to get to, because you got to get to the lightning port there and the headphone jack, and then that's kind of recessed, so you have to use, well, I guess some headphones worked okay. And then this was your silent rocker there, or silence switch. So I put it into this guy. And when I started getting these cases, I would tear out that stupid plastic screen protector they had, because it felt funny. Like, you can tell there was a lot of space between it and the surface of the phone, and it felt funny when you were doing this, and so I took that out pretty quick. But that was my first. I had like that blue and neon green one, and that lasted a really long time. We'll put that over there. And I had this phone for a couple of years, like I said earlier, and it was good. And I had, I think, at least 3 or 4 cases for this. I loved cases. I really got into cases at that point. So when I got my 6S Plus, and how thin it was, I mean, it's, you know, you can see there, it's just about as thin as the 5, if not a little bit thinner. Funnily enough, the new phones are thicker than this. This is about as thin as they went, because this was the whole, I think this was the bend gate thing, or the 6 was the bend gate situation where these bent really easily. Mine never did. Like, mine's pretty straight there, and I had it in my pocket all the time. So when I first got it, I got just a regular Apple case for it, just a leather case, and this was a good one. I really liked this a lot. I actually didn't, if you can see, I have a glass screen protector on here, but I did not have that on there with this case. I just didn't feel like it needed it. So then after that, I went big. I went to this guy. Although I didn't really use this. This is I just keep that with it. I used the big OtterBox guy, and that was huge. I was putting like the whole phablet thing. That's what this was, right up against your face. What I decided to do with this guy is I took the screen protector out again because I hated it, and then I decided to put a glass screen protector on this guy, and that is my favorite combination, because not only do you have a glass screen that's very responsive and feels like the normal glass on the phone, you also get all that protection in there. So it was a great combination that I liked. And then after that, as I was saying earlier, the battery life started to suck. It was pretty bad. So what I ended up doing was getting one of these battery cases from Mophie. And I'm going to give you just a little bit of killer advice here. If you have an old phone like this, go search for a Mophie juice pack, because they are dirt cheap. I got this guy. It had already like ran its life cycle and everything. 25 bucks. 25 bucks for a juice pack. Normally they're anywhere from 80 bucks to, you know, over $100. So that was a killer purchase. Yeah, did it make the phone a little bit longer? Sure, it did. But what I ended up realizing was that you get used to it. And it just sits in there. Yeah, it's a little long, but it doesn't add that much weight. Okay, it adds a little bit of weight and elongates it, but it's not bad. You get used to it pretty quick. And you'll know if you like these thicker cases or not. So what about the phone itself? It's a good phone. Like I said, it lasted me over 4 years, and it's because of the cases that I got, it's in pretty dang good condition. Now, like I said, the battery started going south. I actually did have it replaced once with their $30 battery replacement thing they did. I decided that if that didn't work, if it didn't bounce back a little bit, then I would go for find a Mophie case or something similar to that, which I ended up doing. Oh, by the way, that's one thing that I really like about this. The landscape mode. That's one of the reasons I got it, is because it did the landscape mode. The downside is I realized I didn't really use it that much, and it really just confused me, because when I'd be like this and you know where all of your apps are, then you turn like this and it rearranges all the icons and you don't know exactly where your apps are. So your finger memory just goes out the window. You have no idea. One issue that I did have with this phone, and it is noticeable, is the whole, when you get a new update, it slows down the phone. That absolutely did happen on this, and I noticed it quite a bit. I kind of got used to it. Apps would load, or they would try to load and they'd go a little bit slow. When I'm like moving the screen back and forth, you could tell it was a little funky, or loading apps or whatever. It just wasn't as snappy as it once was. 100% because of what Apple did with their updates. And it became apparent you can absolutely use this phone in 2020. In fact, I was planning on using this phone for probably another year, and it would have been just fine. Those are really the two things that I ran into is just getting a little bit slower because of the updates. The second thing was the space, the capacity. This is 128 gigs. You just fill it up these days with video, and this has a 4K camera on it, video and photos and songs, and I've never been able to put my full library on a phone before. And even on this phone, I couldn't do it because I've got quite a bit of music. It just wasn't possible. But if this is your only phone, or you see one of these used for, I don't know, $100 or something like that, it's absolutely a good phone. If you're just looking for a used one, go for one of these. Now, you're absolutely going to find these for cheaper than an iPhone 7 or an iPhone 8. If you like that style, it's the same kind of style. So the fingerprint reader, it really hadn't changed much from the S all the way up until the 8. And there just wasn't much of a difference. And the same thing, so if you can find this guy for cheap, for 128 gigs, and you're not gonna be loading a bunch of videos on there, that's kind of where I got it. I would load videos on for plane rides, and it just ate up my space like nothing else. But it's still a good phone. I recommend it. It's always done me good. Get a case for it because it is thin and it's slippery all over. I think it'd be a good phone, a good used phone in 2020 if you can't afford a brand new iPhone 11 or 11 Pro or the XS, and you just need something, or for your kid, if you're getting a kid their first phone, as a teenager, then this would be a good one to go with. Probably the iPhone 6S, not the Plus, because the Plus is so big. Might be too big for their hands. It's actually too big for my hands. I always have to do this. I always have to be doing the two hands when texting and stuff like that. So, is the iPhone 6S still relevant in 2020? You bet. Runs the latest operating system. You can get battery packs for them, battery cases, dirt cheap. Great for your kid, for their first phone. Get a 6S, not a 6S Plus. A little too big, but it'll be great for them. Battery pack, like I said before, that way they can't say their phone died. Pretty good, right? If you need just a spare phone, we've talked about using this for like our home phone, to be able to have a third number that we just keep at home. So when myself and my wife are gone, the kids can have a number at home if we need to get a hold of them in an emergency, or if the babysitter needs to call us, something like that. Very good, very, very good option. and can't recommend it highly enough. So thanks for watching another video, guys. That one was a fun one. I've had that phone for a long time. If you liked what you saw, give it a thumbs up. Also consider subscribing, because that always helps us and helps us to put out more content and build our community here. We'll have a lot of other videos coming up, not necessarily tech videos, but we'll try to do something fun and try to do something, you know, interesting for you, something that maybe you haven't seen elsewhere. And we're throwing around ideas. If you have any ideas, comment below. Definitely want to get those from you guys. Remember, subscribe, get the bell on, all that fun stuff, and we'll see you in the next video.